a metaphysical problem. Now, as concerns these foundations through which the person belonging to the Bodhisattva vehicle has rejoiced, concerning these objective supports and points of view through which he has raised that thought, would those foundations, objective supports, and points of view be apprehended in such a way that they would be treated as signs? Maitreya said, No, they would not. Subhuti said, If he treated as an objective support or as a sign that foundation which does not exist, and that objective support which does not exist, would he then not have a perverted perception, perverted thought, perverted views? For in a greedy person also, when he has discriminated a non-existing entity foundation and pondered on it, thinking that there is permanence in the impermanent, ease in suffering, the self in what is not the self, loveliness in what is repulsive, there arises a perverted perception, perverted thought, perverted view. And as the foundation entity, the objective support, the point of view are non-existent, so is enlightenment. So is the thought of enlightenment, and so all dharmas, all elements. But then, on which foundations, by which objective supports or points of view does he turn over what thought into full enlightenment, or what meritorious work founded on jubilation does he turn over into what utmost right and perfect enlightenment? Maitreya said, This should not be taught or expounded in front of a bodhisattva who has newly set out on the vehicle, for he would lose that little faith which is his, that little affection, serenity, and respect which are his. In front of an irreversible bodhisattva should this be taught and expounded. Alternatively, a bodhisattva who is propped up by a good friend would thereby not be cowed, nor become stolid, nor cast down, nor depressed, would not turn his mind away from it, nor have his back broken, nor tremble, be frightened, be terrified. And thus should the bodhisattva turn over into all knowledge the meritorious work founded on jubilation. Subhuti said, The thought by which one has rejoiced and turned over or dedicated that wholesome root connected with jubilation, that thought of rejoicing is at the time of turning over extinct, stopped, departed, reversed. Therefore, what is that thought by which one turns over to full enlightenment? Or what is that thought which turns over into full enlightenment the meritorious work founded on jubilation? Or, if no two thoughts can ever meet, how can one by thought turn over or dedicate thought? Nor is it possible to turn over or to overturn, to transform that thought as far as its own being is concerned. Sakra said, The bodhisattvas who have newly set out on the vehicle should beware of being afraid when they have heard this exposition. How then should a bodhisattva turn that meritorious work founded on jubilation over into full enlightenment? And how does someone who takes hold of the meritorious work founded on jubilation succeed in taking hold of that thought connected with jubilation? And how does one who turns over the thought connected with jubilation succeed in turning it over? Thereupon the venerable Subhuti turned his mind to the bodhisattva Maitreya, concentrated his mind on him, and spoke thus. Here the bodhisattva considers the merit connected with the past Buddhas and lords in the way we described before. He piles up the wholesome roots of all that quantity of wholesome roots without exception and remainder, rolls it into one lump, weighs it, and rejoices over it. He then turns the meritorious work founded on jubilation over to full enlightenment. How can the bodhisattva, when he turns over, be without perverted perception, perverted thought, perverted view? How perverted views can be avoided? Maitreya said, The bodhisattva must not, as a result of the thought by which he turns that over, become one who perceives a thought. It is thus that meritorious work founded on jubilation becomes something which is turned over into full enlightenment. If he does not perceive that thought, identifying it as, This is that thought, then a bodhisattva has no perverted perception, thought, or view. But if he perceives the thought by which he turns that over, identifying it as, "This is that thought," then he becomes one who perceives thought. As a result, he has a perverted perception, thought, and view. But a bodhisattva turns over rightly, not wrongly, when he perceives and brings to mind the thought which turns over in such a way that he regards it as just extinct. Extinct! As stopped, departed, reversed. And when he reflects that which is extinct that cannot be turned over, and that this extinction, etc., is the very dharmic nature also of that thought by which one turns over, and also of the dharmas through which one turns over, as well as of the dharmas to which one turns over, it is thus that the bodhisattva should turn over. He should consider the future Buddhas, the present Buddhas, the past, future, and present Buddhas in the same way in which he considers the past Buddhas. Under which circumstances is he without perverted perception, thought, or views? If, while he turns over, he brings to mind those dharmas as extinct, stopped, departed, reversed, and that dharma into which it is turned over as indistinguishable, then it, the wholesome root, becomes something which has been turned over into full enlightenment. For he does not settle down in that process of dedication. If further he considers that no dharma can be turned over into a dharma, then also it becomes something which has been turned over into full enlightenment. It is thus that the bodhisattva who turns over is without perverted perception, thought, or view, for he does not settle down in that process of dedication. If further he perceives that thought cannot cognize thought, nor can dharma cognize dharma, then also it becomes something which has been turned over into full enlightenment. This is the supreme maturity of the bodhisattva. But if, on the other hand, a bodhisattva perceives that accumulation of merit, then he cannot turn it over into full enlightenment, because he settles down in that process of dedication. If further he reflects that also this accumulation of merit is isolated and quietly calm, and that the meritorious work founded on jubilation is isolated and quietly calm, then he turns over into full enlightenment. If, in addition, he does not even perceive that all conditioned events are calmly quiet and isolated, then that is the perfection of wisdom of that bodhisattva. But he does not turn over into full enlightenment if he perceives that this here is the wholesome root of the Buddhas, the Lords, who have gone to parinirvana, that that wholesome root is just as illusory as the process of dedication, and that also that thought by which it is turned over is of the same kind, has the same mark, belongs to the same class, has the same own being. For the Buddhas and Lords do not allow a dedication to take place through a sign. He does not bring to mind nor turn over that wholesome root to full enlightenment if he brings about a sign by reflecting that what is past is extinct, stopped, departed, reversed, that what is future has not yet arrived, and that of the present no stability is got at, and that which is not got at has no sign or range. On the other hand, he also does not turn over to full enlightenment if he fails to bring about a sign or to bring mind as a result of sheer inattentiveness, if he fails to attend as a result of lack of mindfulness or lack of understanding. But that wholesome root becomes something which has been turned over into full enlightenment on condition that he brings to mind that sign, but does not treat it as a sign. It is thus that the bodhisattva should train himself therein. This should be known as his skill in means. When, through that skill in means, he turns over a wholesome root, then he is near to all knowledge. The bodhisattva who wants to train himself in this skill in means should, however, constantly hear just this perfection of wisdom, study it, and ask questions about it. For without the help of the perfection of wisdom, one untaught cannot enter into the work of dedication by means of the perfection of wisdom. But one should not make a statement to the effect that thanks to the perfection of wisdom, it is possible to transform that meritorious work into full enlightenment. For stopped are those personal lives. Stopped are those karma formations, calmly quiet, isolated, lacking in basis. Moreover, that person has brought about a sign and made a discrimination. He perceives what is truly real and what is not truly real, as if it were truly real, and he would transform a basis into what is without basis. The Buddhas, the Lords, do not allow his wholesome roots to become something which is in this way transformed into full enlightenment, for they become to him a great basis. Even the parinirvana of the Buddhas, the Lords, he treats as a sign and discriminates. He gets at nirvana from a viewpoint, and it is not the dedication carried out by one who perceives a basis which the Tathagatas have called a source of great welfare. For this process of dedication is not without poison, not without thorn. It is just as with food that seems excellent but is really poisonous. Its color, smell, taste, and touch seem desirable, but nevertheless as poisonous it should be shunned, and not eaten by circumspect people. Although fools and stupid people might think that it should be eaten, the color, smell, taste, and touch of that food promise happiness, but its transformation in a man who would eat it would lead to a painful conclusion. As a result, he would incur death or deadly pain. Just so, some perceivers of a basis who sees badly the meaning of what is well taught, badly distinguish it, badly master it, and misunderstand it, not understanding the meaning as it really is. They will instruct and admonish others to consider the massive merit of the past, future, and present Buddhas and Lords in the way described before, to rejoice at it, and to turn over into full enlightenment the meritorious work founded on jubilation. Thus, that turning over, since it is being carried out by means of a sign, is turned into poisonousness. It is just like the poisonous food mentioned before. There can be no turning over for someone who perceives a basis, for a basis is poisonous. Therefore, a person who belongs to the vehicle of the bodhisattvas should not train himself thus. How then should he train himself? How should he take hold of the wholesome root of the past, future, and present Buddhas and Lords? And how does that which is taken hold of become something which is successfully taken hold of? How should he turn over? And how does it become something which has been successfully turned over into the supreme enlightenment? Here, the son or daughter of a good family, who belongs to the vehicle of the bodhisattvas and who does not want to culminate the Tathagatas, should thus rejoice over all that wholesome root, should thus turn it over. I rejoice in that wholesome root, considered as the Tathagatas with their Buddha cognition and their Buddha eye know and see it. Its kind, such as it is, its class, such as it is, quality, such as it is, its own being, such as it is, its mark, such as it is, and its mode of existence, such as it is. And I turn it over in such a way that those Tathagatas can allow that wholesome root to be turned over into full enlightenment. When he thus rejoices, thus turns over, a bodhisattva becomes free of guilt. The righteousness of the Buddhas, the Lords, is rejoiced in. That wholesome root becomes something that has been turned over into full enlightenment. And he does not calumniate those Tathagatas. In this way, his turning over becomes a non-poisonous turning over, a great turning over, a turning over into the Dharma element. It becomes perfect, quite perfect, through the earnest intention and the resolve of him who turns over. Moreover, someone who belongs to the vehicle of the bodhisattvas should turn over with the understanding that all morality, concentration, wisdom, emancipation, vision, and cognition of emancipation are unincluded in the world of sense desire, the world of form, the formless world, and that they are not past, future, or present. For everything that is in the three periods of time or in the triple world is unincluded in ultimate reality. In consequence, the turning over is also unincluded, and so is the Dharma, that is, Buddhahood, into which that process of transformation is being turned. If only he firmly believes that. When a bodhisattva turns over in such a way, he can never again lose the turning over, and it becomes unincluded, non-poisonous, a great turning over, a turning over of the Dharma element. Perfect, quite perfect. But, on the other hand, when he settles down in what he turns over and treats it as a sign, then he turns it over wrongly. A bodhisattva, however, turns over with the idea that it is through this turning over into the Dharma element, as the Buddhas, the Lords, know and permit it, that the wholesome root becomes something which has been turned over into full enlightenment, successfully turned over. This is the right method of turning it over, and in this way it becomes something that has been turned over into supreme enlightenment, successfully turned over. The Lord said, "Well said, Subhuti, well said. You perform the office of the teacher when you demonstrate Dharma of the Bodhisattvas. For it is this turning over, which is the turning over of the Dharma element, that is the turning over of a Bodhisattva. He thinks, as the Buddhas and Lords know and see that wholesome root in this Dharmahood, its kind such as it is, its class such as it is, its quality such as it is, its own being such as it is, its mark such as it is, its mode of existence such as it is, so I rejoice in it. And as they grant permission, so I turn it over."